Hi, Admirals fans. The Admirals are set for the Calder Cup playoffs, beginning with the Central Division semifinals against the Manitoba Moose. I'm Nicole Sedivy, joined here by the voice of your Milwaukee Admirals, Aaron Sims. Aaron, thanks so much for joining me today.
It's good to be here, Nicole. Big time.
Yeah, all right, let's talk about it. They're starting off this best-of-5 series against the Moose. They've had some time off since the regular season. You've been around them. You've been chatting with them. What's the vibe?
The vibe is very good, and it's interesting, Nicole, because 9 players, as we know, were in Nashville near the end of the season. 2 came back a little early, 7 came back after the Admirals season was concluded. Nashville's obviously, they're not in the playoffs. So the big question is, how do those players fit back in? They're all saying the right things. They all appear to be doing the right things. They all have equity with this team. They all fall under the leadership umbrella of Cole Schneider, and I think peer pressure is a big deal. These guys want to win. Yeah, they would love to be in the NHL, but there's no NHL going on right now. A championship means a lot of things. For some of these guys, it means another contract. Some of these guys, it means a better contract. Some of these guys, maybe it's a coaching job somewhere down the line. It's a big time. These guys know it, and I'm looking forward to hopefully a nice long run.
Let's dive into those guys who returned. You mentioned 9 of them in total at this point. They got high praises from the coaches up in Nashville. They're now here. Coach Taylor mentioned to you earlier that there's going to be a lot of shifting of lines. They're experimenting with that. Where are we at now with that? Are we ready for game 1? I know that can change game 2, game 3, all down the line. How are we looking heading into Friday?
It's going to be very interesting. Of course, Joachim Kemmel, who came over, he's still 18. He turns 19, I think, the day before the first game. So he is a guy who has to sit out the first game at least, but he was a point a game per game player when he came over from Finland. So as an 18-year-old, he's been magnificent, but he has to sit out the first game due to a suspension that he accrued late in the year. So you have Luke Evangelista, Kiefer Sherwood. They were a terrific tandem with Tommy Novak in Nashville. We'll see if they stick together. As Carl Taylor was quick to point out, there's no Tommy Novak here. But that being said, Mark Jankowski's a point-a-game player in the American Hockey League, and he had a fine season in the NHL. Michael McCarron is one of these character guys you love to have on your team. He keeps the room loose. He also is a very tough presence and a big presence out on the ice. So he's going to help. Spencer Stastny is possibly the best skating defenseman in the American Hockey League, and he's probably up there in the National Hockey League in the handful of games he's played. So you have a lot of guys with a lot of ability that showed extremely well. I'm not even mentioning Luke Evangelista. I did mention Luke Evangelista, but he had 15 points in 24 games in Nashville. He said too, and it's the story in Nashville has been all along, he was going to come up for a weekend, turn around and go back. Luke said he brought 1 suit. He played 24 games. He had to wear the same suit for 24 games. He never went out and bought a new one. So he stuck around a lot longer. He showed extremely well, and he's ready to come back. He lives with a couple of guys who are on the team. So there's that, again, peer pressure. These guys want to win. They want to win for each other. It's a close-knit group. I'm looking forward to a good run.
I want to talk a little bit more about Evangelista. First of all, I'll say I hope he's got the suit dry cleaned.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It may have walked back on its own as he took the plane. It walked back on its own from Nashville.
But it's his first pro season. He's young. Yeah, he got that experience in the show, playing well. But playoffs are different, even at the AHL level. Is he ready?
You know what? At the beginning of this season, we wondered if he was ready for the American Hockey League season. 2 years ago, as we all know, COVID shut the season down for a handful of teams. Milwaukee was one that opted out. So those players had to play in Chicago, and you had a lot of 18-year-olds from the Ontario Hockey League or whatever junior leagues coming in to play. Luke was 18. He was physically, mentally immature. He wasn't ready for the pro game. He didn't show well. So last year, he has this brilliant year with London of the Ontario Hockey League, scores more than 50 goals or more than 100 points. What is he going to have coming into the season? First game of the year at Chicago, Carl Taylor says, Luke Evangelista made every right decision, but a half a second late. He picked that up almost right away. He's arguably been the most consistent forward when he was here in the 49 games that he played with Milwaukee. So will he be ready? Nothing surprises me with this kid anymore. He is fit in from day one. He has been, you've heard people say it, he's been a glue guy. He's a funny guy. He chirps the old guys. They chirp him back. Yeah, that rookie stuff is long gone. And yeah, playoffs are certainly a different animal. But he's played a handful of games against Manitoba, and I'm looking forward to big things from him, especially the way he played in Milwaukee, certainly the way he played in Nashville, and now just translate it to the playoffs, because his season has gone up and up and up in importance, and up and up in importance in value, in experience, and I think this is going to be a good run for him.
Let's switch gears to Manitoba.
Yeah.
This is a familiar series for them. They played the exact same series last year. The Admirals coming on top. I'm sure Manitoba has an axe to grind with them. But what are the threats here for the Admirals?
Well, Manitoba has unbelievable defensemen. They all jump into the play. We know this. It's the same team. Carl Taylor knows their head coach, Mark Morrison, extremely well. They coached against each other in the ECHL. They know each other extremely well. Manitoba's defensemen are very active. Last year we saw it quite a bit. This year not so much, but they'll have 3 defensemen on the power play because they work the puck around that well. So Winnipeg is still in the playoffs. There's a couple of players that have been called up there. They're not coming back as of yet. We'll see what happens with the Winnipeg-Vegas series, obviously, but there are some really good players still. They shoot from everywhere. We saw it last year with Devin Cooley in goal in the first couple of games of the postseason here in Milwaukee. The Admirals stole 2 games, gave up 40-some shots each night. Devin Cooley was magnificent, and the Admirals go on to win the series in 5. Now this year, flip it around a little bit. The Admirals are on the road for the first 2, home for the final 3 if all 3 are necessary. Those first 2 games, they have to split. Manitoba did not split. It cost them last season. The Admirals need to get at least one of the 2. Both of these clubs won 4 games apiece in the season series. So this is going to be a good series. And again, you like the skill that's come back from Milwaukee. Manitoba's a hard-nosed, dogged type of team. And it's kind of 2 different ideologies that are battling here. And that's what makes hockey so great.
You mentioned that tough decor of the Moose. I want to touch a little bit on that. The Admirals penalty kill, the highest percentage in the Central Division, around 84%. They also had the fewest goals against on the penalty kill with 36. What do you credit to it?
Well, first off, they didn't have to kill as many as they did a couple of years ago, right? It was over 300 last season that 300 times they were on the penalty kill. So first off, they're not on the penalty kill as much, which is good news. They control the puck a little bit more. That means they don't have to do the hooking and the clutching and the grabbing. They skate a lot better than last year's team. They don't have to reach out and get those impeding infractions. But on top of that, the goaltenders, that's your number 1 penalty killer. The scheme has been great. The interesting thing about all of this, and Scott Ford runs the penalty kill, the interesting thing, Nicole, has been that when all those players were recalled, the penalty kill got even better as the season wore on, finishing 3rd in the league in the American Hockey League. But the last 2 months has been magnificent. Same thing on the power play side. It's number 1 in the league. And there too, it got a little better as the season wore on without all of those skilled players. So it's interesting. I think part of it is, and this sounds very simplistic, that I'm going to say it's simplistic. They kept the structure. They worried about being in the right spots. They didn't worry so much about freelancing and all of that stuff. They stuck to the script and ended up coming away with the top special teams combined in the American Hockey League this season.
You mentioned that elite power play percentage for the Admirals. And they had the fewest opportunities in the Central Division too. How do they take advantage of getting more opportunities going into the playoffs?
Well, they got to get to the net. That's the big thing. 25% on the power play, and that's been a key for them. But they got to get to the net, and that's, bang the pucks, all of that stuff. As I said, Milwaukee skates a little better, much better than they did last season. Manitoba's an outstanding skating team too, and you're going to lose a lot of those hooking and tripping and all of these things, sticking out the stick, trying to hold somebody up. You lose a lot of that when you have 2 teams that skate very well. So if the Admirals can get 3 power plays a game, they got to score on 1 of them at least. If they get 4, you'd love to think they can get 2, and they've been doing that seemingly pretty frequently since the middle of February. So when they do get it, and this is for Manitoba too, when they get on the power play, they have to score.
Let's touch on the 5-game series. The Admirals were the higher seed, meaning they got to choose whether they wanted to start on the road or host those 3 games at home on the back end. They're a fantastic road team. They chose to start on the road. Is that an advantage to them? Of course, they want to win every game, but are they trying to get ahead early?
I don't know that there is a home ice advantage when you have this scenario. When teams are more than 300 miles apart, that's how you do it. You don't do the 2-2-1. Let's say the Admirals were playing Rockford or Chicago. You would have 2 in Milwaukee, 2 in Rockford, 1 back in Milwaukee if necessary. Because of the distance and the travel costs and all of that, you start this way. So you guarantee 2 on the road, and then if necessary, 3 at home. So if you win 1 on the road, you got to win 2 at home. You got to win 3 no matter what. That's the thing. Last year, I think the Admirals proved that it doesn't matter so much. Playoffs are a different animal. You got to dig in and play. And the Admirals won that first round series, lost in the second round to Chicago, but you just got to win the hockey games no matter where they are. And Manitoba, they're a good team. It's going to be a fun series. It's going to be an interesting series.
You touched on it earlier that some of these guys are establishing their leadership. You have great leadership in guys like Cole Schneider, young guys coming in and bringing good energy, and Luke Evangelista. these guys in and out all the time. There were a lot of changes for this Admirals team this year, but they're got their core now heading into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Are they ready?
Yeah, I hope so. They're going to have to be. And you know, when you have 12 days off between games, you would think they are. They had a scrimmage on Saturday for fans to come out. So a couple of hundred people showed up at Wilson Park and got to see the team play and work out. And it was basically a game. They did some scenarios and things like that, but they wanted to do some compete drills, competitive, build up that competition between one another, get ready for the next series. But also, when you think about the players who are coming back, that technically knocks some guys out of the lineup who have been mainstays for the last 2 months since the trade deadline. So it's an opportunity for players like Isaac Ratcliffe, Austin Rushoff, guys like that to try to keep a spot in the lineup once the playoffs start. If they don't have one in game one, it doesn't mean it won't be there in game two, but practices have to be game ready in practices, because that's how the coach is going to make out his lineup here from now on.
You know, I'm going to do it to you. Admirals in what?
Admirals in 4.
Admirals in 4. Okay.
4, yeah.
I like it.
All right. Split up there, 2 back at home.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time, Aaron. The playoffs get started on Friday in Winnipeg. They take on the Manitoba Moose in the Central Division semifinals. Aaron, you'll be on the call?
Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks so much.